in its entire history. And we just were getting started. Because I promised you then, and people measure you by the promises you keep, but I promised you then, and I promised everyone, that I would not quit because the stakes are too high. And so I'm running for Congress again. And quite simply, I'm running for Congress because I'd like to serve. Because I feel that I would make a better representative for New York City and for the United States of America than the current incumbent congressperson would. But it's more than that. You see, we are at a real inflection point. This week, the president was just impeached for only the third time in American history. This is not a fact for us to celebrate. It is a sad moment. And Donald Trump has laid bare the divisions in this country. He has torn down the democratic values and ideals we hold dear, broken norms in politics, in messaging, in press and media. And yet, you know, he is just a symptom of a long-term problem that has existed in our politics for decades. Decades before he's been around. Decades that the incumbent congresswoman has been part of tearing down this democracy by accepting corporate PAC money and decimating the institutions in this country that allow us to be the land of opportunity that brought so many of our parents and ourselves here. You see, upward mobility is the promise of America. And our parents came here in the 70s and worked their hands bare, sweeping motel parking lots. Vikas and I can remember doing laundry in motel laundry rooms and growing up building businesses because this is the place where if you work hard, you can grow up and do anything you want. And I got to become a lawyer, and I got to work for President Obama, and I had to teach at one of the finest universities in this country. It is a unique and remarkable and only American story, and frankly, it has become the exception much more than the rule. We live in the most unequal district in America, and we're also in the wealthiest district in America. The problems that this country face, that have been ignored for too long, start from places like this and congresswomen like Maloney. You see, without the benefit of hindsight, we know that, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that without upward mobility, people stop believing in the system. A country can only be tolerant insofar as it's self-assured, insofar as people feel like they can work hard and do well by their kids because the system's fair. And Trump is a product then of the system being unfair. For 25 years before he existed, people in the Democratic Party have been taking corporate dollars. They've ignored the working class and the middle class in this country. And when Maloney called student debtors deadbeats while bailing out Wall Street and watering down Glass-Steagall, or breaking down Glass-Steagall and watering down Dodd-Frank, that's the kind of person that gets us to where we are now that doesn't understand where we need to go. All right? Good Democrats do not vote for border walls. In 2006, Carol Maloney was one of only 20 Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives that voted for a border wall that Trump now supports. Good Democrats do not vote for wars that send our generation to spill blood on foreign soil for pointless reasons. Carol Maloney was one of the few Democrats in the country she was the only Democrat in the country who wore a burqa on the House floor while lauding the Bush administration's war in Afghanistan and calling for war in Iraq. Good Democrats do not spend 25 years spouting anti-vaccine conspiracy theories and anti-science rhetoric from the House floor. Good Democrats do not vote for 1994 crime bills, and I know that's a 25-year-old bill, but that's the problem with the inequality in America is part and parcel with the generation of Democrats that came before us that locked up black men and women. So we now have this remarkable opportunity Donald Trump will probably not be in the White House in January of 2020. And he has torn down the institutions we hold dear. But the question is, which people are going to build them back up? Do we trust people who were bad on these issues before Trump to be better on them after, or do we not have any longer the ability to trust these people and that we need to change our representation? And I have a different vision, okay? Many of the people in this room are probably going to have children in the next 2, 4, whatever, 10 years. Now imagine a world in which every child comes to America from abroad or is born here and has access to early childhood education, universal child care, debt-free college, and gets put on an equal footing with everyone else in order to be able to work hard and get the opportunities that we had because our parents sacrificed. That's the kind of world we want to live in. We want to work on ideas that will change our climate, that will change our mass incarceration system, that will change our immigration system. As a first-generation immigrant, I think we should have a few in Congress as we debate how this country accepts people going forward. None of that is going to happen with the status quo. It is unacceptable to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. This will be the 14th term for the incumbent congresswoman, and I don't know how it would be any different than the prior 13. When we had, as Democrats, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and we knew that $3 billion from public housing was cut under the Bush administration, our congresswoman did nothing to restore that. Now, either that is because she's recklessly indifferent and less privileged, or because she's incompetent. But we can't take that chance anymore going forward. So, I'm running for Congress because this is so important. That we know we have lost a decade. In 10 days, this decade ends, and in many ways, it was a lost decade. Wages have been stagnant. Sea levels are still rising. Climate change already happened. Sandy already happened. 1 out of every 3 black males born in this country is still put in prison by the time they're 30. That is not the world we're going to live in the next decade. Now, I lost an election. I know what it's like to think about and lament of something that has happened. But I also start to have a new perspective. And when you lose something, you realize that it actually just has an opportunity to be found. Now, I'm running for Congress again because last cycle I realized that I found my calling. This work is too important. The next decade cannot be lost. It is waiting for us to find it. The next decade is going to be one that is led by a generation that is fed up with the last 30 years of nothing, of no progress, of backwards progress. I want to thank you all for being here at the beginning and ground level for believing in us. If you're as energized as I am, if you're as excited as I am about the possibility for new representation in New York City, then join us. We have a tremendous team. I mean, I can tell you about where we are on the campaign, but I am 5 months ahead of schedule compared to last time in terms of hiring, in terms of knowing where the votes are going to be and what we need to do. And for the first time, this time, we are going to ask you for something else, not just your money. I'm going to ask you for your time. Because we're going to do an all-volunteer canvass. I'm going to have you guys, if you can, spare 4 hours, 8 hours to be out there on the weekends with clipboards collecting signatures to get us on the ballot. We're going to get 4,000 signatures with an all-volunteer army because we already have 250 people from the last cycle who are psyched and ready to go and chomping at the bit to knock on doors and make phone calls and get those signatures. We will win this on the streets. And we're not starting from zero. In 2020, we will have a new congressperson from New York City. In 2020, we will have a new president and we will have a new future. Let's not lose the next decade. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being part of this from day one. I want to say, again, from the bottom of my heart, and say remarkably humbling thing to be in front of so many loved ones and friends. I could never do this without you. You know, There is, I'm sure you've heard, many of you heard, an old Kenyan proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We're going to go far together. You've been with me for 3 years. And give me your next 10 because we're going to go far together. And the only way I was able to make this decision is because of the people in this room being here. So thank you so much. And please find George over there, who has a clipboard as we start to divvy up shifts to do petitions and doors and all those things. Thanks so much for being here.